Greetings, Summoners. Cosmic here, and welcome back to the Champions Corner. Hopefully an ongoing series where we get a chance to interview the winners from each of the Grand Opens in Battle Spirits Saga first year. And today I am joined by Ayumu, who is going to be talking about their Grand Open Germany experience and taking the entire thing down with purple mid-range. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing quite fine, even though it's after 12 a.m. here. Just gonna casually expose you.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. That's on me for the late night recording. But
No, I'm fine with that. It was just a joke. How are you, Cosmic?
I'm doing good. I'm glad we were able to get some time together. And you're very active in the Discord community. But for those that might not know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you over to Battle Spirits Saga?
Right, yeah. So, hello everyone. I'm Ayumu, or you will probably know me as Andy Lee from the Germany Grand Open. So I did get the most recent champion place from the Germany Grand Open with the purple mid-range deck. So I did play the Japanese version of Battle Spirits already for 14 years by now, and I'm also the current wiki admin for the Japanese Battle Wiki site, Battle Spirits wiki site. Yes, clap hands.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, in terms of card games, I do play quite a lot of them, but like Battle Spirit is still my most favorite one, just because of very huge nostalgia. Like it's the game which like I play a lot with my friends, like back in the days, and I never really found any chances to enter the championship there because, in short words, the Japanese game is quite xenophobic. So, as in like not in a bad way, just that their management isn't good enough to like welcome any non-Japanese players to enter championship and such. So with like Saga coming out at that time when they first announced it, my first thoughts were literally it was my time.
Yeah, definitely a long time to just be like enjoying and playing a card game, right? Because it's always one thing to love a card game and get to play it just because it's something you naturally enjoy, but there is always going to be like, I wish I could play it at locals, or I wish I could go play in this event and just celebrate the game with other players. And now you have that opportunity in Saga, which is really awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm quite glad that like they didn't really change much from the original game, but like obviously like with like the comprehensive rules and everything like that. But like fundamentally, uh they're like kind of still one and the same. Like you look at the both of them and you would think like they're the same game and they're the same game and etc. like that. Uh it's very interesting to also see that like Bandai kind of tries to go back to just importing the game roughly as it is, because from what I see with their previous attempts, such as with like Xenonsard, Digimon TCG, even One Piece TCG, I think partly all of them are to kind of lay the path for Battle Spirits, well, in brackets Saga, to re-enter the Western market, just because in Japan, Battle Spirits is Bandai's the biggest TCG.
Yeah, when you have that legacy behind it, right? They brought in other games later, and it's a lot like, for those in the maybe Western audience, right? Like our Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Pokemon being the big three, and Battle Spirits is celebrating 16 years, 16 years, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 16, in Japan, which is a huge just celebration and achievement to have a card game go that long. So it really, thinking back, and I know this is something we as a Discord were talking about when the game was first coming out. It's like, it feels like Bandai planned this pretty well, right? Because there's the old Bandai, which a lot of people know from like Bandai America and like the Naruto era. And then there's like this new Bandai with Dragon Ball Super card game that started. And they just really wanted to get their foot into the Western market with these really, really popular IPs. And it worked out for them pretty well, I have to say. As someone who didn't really know a lot about Bandai in its current year, like, yes, I did help out with Dragon Ball stuff at launch, but then I dropped out of it pretty quickly. I played Digimon back in August, I think, because I was getting out of Flesh and Blood because it was just way too expensive to keep up with, and I just wanted out. And then I saw Bandai, which is just like for the players first and affordability. I'm like, okay, this is now, speaking to me. I never cared about Digimon, but as like growing up, but it's like, okay, I want to learn about this company. And then of course, shortly after, Saga got announced, and I've just been so impressed with what they've been able to do. So I think they do have a pretty good future forward, and hopefully with that, expanded footprint, we'll have, better locations to look forward to in the future, which is a great segue to the next part I wanted to talk about. So in Germany, I was thinking that this was going to be, by a major hub and be easy to get to. But when I looked it up on a map, I was shocked. So tell us a little bit about your journey to the event, right? Like how far were you coming in from? How long did it take you to get there? And just that overall like travel experience to the venue.
It was almost downright horrendous because first thing is that even though like people always say that, oh, like you don't really need to know German in Germany because like everyone speaks English, etc., like that. But when I went there are still like most of the signs like are still in German, etc. And if you don't know German, it can be very hard to navigate your way. And not to mention Kaohsiung, when I visited there, it was a literal village. Like even like during daytime, yeah, even during daytime, you walk out there, like there was barely anyone, and like literally the closest kind of supermarket or even convenience store was a little with like 10 minutes away from the venue. And I'm glad that my friend actually kind of helped me out because he was planning to be a judge for the event. So so I took my flight from the UK to Düsseldorf, which is like kind of like a city, quite a big city actually, roughly in the middle of Germany, and then we took the train down to Cologne, which was around 1 to 2 hours. Like we spent 1 to 2 hours to get there, and then after that we had to spend another roughly 4 to 5 hours to get to Kaohsiung. And
That's even worse than I thought. Oh
yeah.
no.
And what even worse was that, as my friend had told me, train delays were a very common thing in Germany. But usually, it wouldn't last for like more than an hour, I think. But during that day, I'm just gonna say, well, as they have announced, someone got onto the tracks. We can all guess for what reasons, kind of, but because of that, literally most of the major lines got delayed for a very long time. And even for us, even though our train was originally kind of direct to Kaohsiung, we had to change our trains midway because like halfway there they announced that, oh, sorry, it's not going to Kaohsiung anymore, you have to stop here and switch to another one. And so like that took us like another extra like an hour or so. We still reached the venue on Friday night, around 11 p.m. With like the day before the event actually began, which wasn't too bad because I was thinking like, okay, so like it starts at 10 a.m. So I'm gonna get there at around maybe 9:30. So probably I'll wake up at 8:30. If I sleep at 12 a.m., I will still get some decent sleep and I'll be fine with that. But then like I share a room with another one of my friends who was coming down to Kaohsiung alone, and he told me at first his train got delayed to 1:45 a.m.
Oh.
And like I had to wait for him because if not, then he wouldn't have the hotel key to enter
Right.
the room. Yeah, so I was like, it's okay, it's fine. I can still barely get some sleep. Like just try to get here quick. And then half an hour later, he told me, sorry, the train got delayed until 2:22 a.m.
Yeah, that is a very challenging day, to say the least.
Oh my god, it was even worse than London pre-launch, I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's having these in better locations. I think for those that maybe are not as familiar with Saga and haven't been keeping up on the locations of many of these events, they have not been in the greatest location. And honestly, from what I've been able to gather from the Chile one, that's also not in the best spot. The Ohio Grand Open that's after that is actually in a little bit better of a spot there because there's a lot of people who can drive into that location. So yes, flying into it is still pretty awful, but it's in a acceptable driving range for a lot of people that we are definitely expecting good attendance. But I really do hope that Saga, as after we get past this first, 8 events, the next 8 or maybe the ones after that, because they've already probably have their venues picked out for the second set that qualifies for the European Pro Tour, that they'll be in a little bit more centralized of locations. But you fought a very, very hard battle to get to the venue to try to get some sleep. But let's talk about the event itself, right? So obviously you won with Purple Midrange. We've had that list up, and I'll flash the list up here on the screen just for a couple seconds so people can look it over and get an idea of what you played. But before that, and before we get into the actual list itself, was there anything else that you were testing for this meta, or were you like very early on that purple is what I want to play, and that was the deck that you stuck with?
Yeah, so well, right from when we started Saga, I already thought about just sticking to purple, really. Well, I chose purple at the start mainly for aesthetic reasons because I saw like the Nemesis on the purple SD, and I was like, I love Nemesis art. I'm so gonna pick that one up, and then it turns out to be Pentacles.
Yep.
Like, why?
The old switcheroo.
Yeah, but after that, when they revealed the Backless and Curse Dragon combo, that's when I actually felt that purple has the potential, because actually back when the Japanese game was first released, the first meta deck was also the exact same combo. But like I think it worked better at that time, obviously, because during that time burst still wasn't a thing, and there were a lot more purple nexuses that deals with controlling the board, instead of like how in Saga right now, like most of them are like kind of like an assistant in drawing. But yeah, so like that's why I picked purple up. And when I was testing it, I did think about maybe like switching to something else. For example, red, like the Pterosaur deck was definitely one of them. But then I sold the deck to my friend just so he could start the game. So I went back to purple mid range. Well, I still call it purple control at that time. I actually only changed to mid range when I was submitting the deck list, because it was a very interesting revelation to myself, I guess. But like during the pre-launch event, I was like taking up all the advices from online stuff like that, and they were all saying like, Maduke doesn't seem to be too useful. Maybe like not to put her in the deck for now. Might be too high cost, etc. like that. And so I didn't do that, and I regretted that decision forever, because. Because during one round, which was also the round that costed my chance to get into top 8 during the London pre-launch, was actually against White Control, against Abdel, who was in top 4 in the Germany Grand Open as well. And facing his White Control deck, the thought that I remember the most at that time was, why the heck did I not bring Maduke? And ever since then, I would always include Maduke in my purple list just to deal with White Control. And under some fateful encounters, I faced Abdel again with his exact White Control list in the top 4 games.
Oh man,
and well,
the run back.
Needless to say, I got my revenge.
Yeah, Maduke has definitely been a card that we're seeing a lot more. And I got to give a quick shout out to Kubia, who's currently still working on all the top 32 data from the background. So if you haven't seen it, or from the Grand Open in the background, he's kind of tolling away at it. So if you haven't seen it already, that's also in the Discord and the Google Doc. We'll get that in one of the comments. Hopefully I'll remember. Or someone comment down below if I forget. I'll get the Google Doc link. But if you look at a lot of the top 32, it is just a sea of red and purple. And at least here, speaking from like a North American meta, to loosely call it that right now as we will, like we do have a lot of white. We have a lot of Fable Beasts that are also splashing Dream Bomb, which, yes, it doesn't, completely get rid of Maduke, but at least can give you that window to hopefully close out the game if you time it right. But otherwise, Maduke comes right back down. And it is a very scary card, and one I think we'll definitely see a lot more going into the next 2 Grand Opens, because I think it's just very well positioned right now as we have a lot of these more mid-range decks that are coming out online and just really want to gunk up the board. And hey, Maduke's just there to say, look, this blood curse is going to happen, or you're just not going to block it. And then heaven help them if you have like a Camelot Knight or something to back it up with as well. So maybe the answer is going to be Maduke, but thinking about your list overall, what are some of the key cards that either overperformed for you or just you really felt were pivotal in helping you clearing through to get that champion title?
Well, talking about that, first card is actually Maduke herself.
Fair enough.
Because I originally used her like really just against white control. But obviously you never know what kind of other decks you would face in the tournament. So like I think she's just like generally good if like your opponent managed to, build up a wall of spirits or something like that. It's like the purple equivalent of the Dina, really. Like if your spirits can't get through it, just do through it. But surprisingly, she was working quite well against Pterosaur as well, because I don't know if the others think the same way, but for me, when I think of like an aggro deck, I would think that maybe like the spirits would be at relatively low BP, because you know how the score cores are spread out, and usually when you have an aggro deck, your spirits are lower cost, so like their BP are also generally lower. But that actually wasn't the case for Pterosaur, especially when they have things like Dino Man, and then there's also the Eagle, which then goes up to like 7,000 BP, etc. And actually, having Maduke there would help. Like it actually helped me quite a lot in the games, because like obviously Maduke herself, if you just keep her at level 2, she's only 6,000 BP, which like goes on par with Dino Man, and then like even goes under the Eagle's BP. And then obviously if like I can always just bring back out the Camelot Knight combo again, and then like they also wouldn't be able to guard that one. And on the defensive side, if I just keep Maduke standing there, it's also very hard for them to attack, especially if they already have like battlefield set up, which is like a mandatory effect of adding 1,000 BP to it. So like they would either have to go like, remove their cores and like risk getting removed by core removal, or literally just like smashing the Maduke and like lose one spirit of their own, etc. Or like they just can't attack at all, stuff like that. And then and I'm just thinking like if there's any other cards that kind of overperform for me. Not really, actually. I suppose
Well, you make a great
the
point
other. Oh,
about.
so no, sorry. Go ahead. What is it?
Yep, I was like, you do make a great point about Scorched Battlefield, though, right? Like that is something that the red decks really want to get online. It's going to be a permanent buff that they are going to have, maybe sometimes in multiples, but then also like Eagle is a prime example, right? We talk about how good that card is as a 2 for 5k power, that now they suddenly have to drop down to 1, because if they have the Battlefield plus Eagle, it's suddenly a 6k, and that's also threatening the Blood Curse trigger with Maduke. So, red is really great at being efficient and wanting to try to get those extra chip damage in to maybe draw some cards in the purple matchup, but turns out it can actually make it very hard for them to, if they stick a Battlefield, to get under that Maduke and really try to close out the games that way. So obviously they do have like Derm Dyna in the main and side, which of course you have some answers for as well, but it's Maduke can definitely gum up the board. So any other spirits or cards that come to mind, or is it really just been Maduke for you in terms of really shining through in your tournament experience?
Well, there are more. Burning Force is another one, actually, because I'm not exactly a big fan of like using cards of different colors, since like most of the time they may be too high cost to use them. But I got persuaded by my friend, like just like you need some like Nessus removals like in your deck, like even like Dream Bomb might also work. But at the end, I chose Burning Force just because it also has the option of removing 2 spirits, which is also great against aggro. But it's actually the Nessus destruction part that I found a lot more useful, which I mean, not surprising, that's its
Yeah.
primary uses.
Yep, exactly.
But yeah,
Good
but
card is
like
good.
most of the time, in my experience, like you would just really have to like maybe destroy 1 or 2 necesses like in each game. Like it doesn't have to be a lot, especially since like I think a lot of necesses right now don't really make too big of an impact by being on the field. Like Battlefield again, for example, uh, uh, well, yes, it can draw like at level 2, but then you can control that by blocking, just simply blocking their attacks. But on the other hand, Canyon is something
Yeah.
that I would have to look out for because it does help to like kind of filter the hand a lot quicker, and that can only be stopped if you just try to remove Canyon completely. And that's what I did with Burning Force. And uh, luckily that strategy was also what helped me to get through the top 2 games, because well, not top, yeah, I mean like the final games, because
Yep.
like during game 3, Mike, my opponent, literally wasn't able to move at all because after he deployed after he deployed the Canyon, and the next turn I just straight up destroy it, and that happened for 3 times just in game 3.
Oh no! Oh, the bad beats.
So yeah, Burning Force definitely an MVP right there.
Yeah, and I can definitely relate as a yellow player, right? Especially red pterosaurs, that hand filtering is so important. You want to get that volcanic canyon, if you see it across the table, out as soon as possible. And yellow players will say it too, right? Like if you hit our paradise early and just we don't find another one, a lot of times that we can just really fall apart. That goes back to like the Vegas and launch metas where Nova was running around, and I foolishly, and I said it was a bad deck at that time, and I stick to that choice. But trying to battle through 4 Burning Force and 3 Andromedas, and like you have to have your Nexus to get value. And the deck just falls apart if you don't. So like it feels really bad. And I'm kind of glad that people haven't figured out yet that Feral Slash is a very good sideboard card. And I'm sure they're going to figure that out very soon if they haven't yet. That I'm kind of scared to play yellow in Ohio. Like I thought it was a pretty reasonable choice. Leading up to Germany, and we did see a couple finishers, but I definitely think we're at that other side of it, just looking at what made top 32, looking at some of the sideboard choices, and it's just not as strong as where it might have been or needed to be. So speaking of matchups, though, leading into our next question, what matchups did you want to avoid the most all day, and what particularly about them is something that you feel is a bad matchup for purple?
That's a very good lead up because I'm going to say yellow decks, especially Fable Beast. Just because Fable Beast in nature, well, at least right now, with the blast keyword, they are actually quite aggressive. And obviously, because they can also heal themselves, they wouldn't really mind if they like just kind of keep attacking as long as like you as long as like you're not able to like just like summon 4 or 5 spirits in one turn, things like that. And it like they also, obviously, as you mentioned, there was also Paradise to like keep up the consistent draw. So like I can't really face the Fable Beat deck like I do with Pterosaur or White Aggro, which is just kind of like keep removing their board and then wait for their hands to go down, because that won't happen in Fable Beast unless you manage to get your Burning Force in hand and destroy their Paradise in time, which is also the reason why after this tournament, I think I'm going to stuff 4 Feral Slash into my side deck just just to counter Fable Beast. But yes, yeah, yellow decks in general. So it's not really just Fable Beast. The other deck that actually surprised me was, well, I mean, later on they told me it's not really a luster deck, but yes, it's kind of like a luster kind of yellow deck, which I happened to face in round 2. Well, later on, the player told me it's not a luster deck because like his only luster spirits in there were Shin, but
That's all you need.
somehow, yeah, well, yeah, and somehow against me he managed to win. put them both at level 3, and then use Glimmer of Hope to keep the draw and the refresh. And he was a very good player because he knew how purple work. So with his important spirits, or like just in general, he would keep he wouldn't attack unless he can refresh his spirits. And that means during like he'll be slowly chipping down my lives, and then I wouldn't be able to remove them at all because it's cards like Cauldron and Mordred like can only target exhausted spirits,
Yep.
and that's kind of how I lost the round and gave me quite a lot of pressure for the rest of the day because that was only the second round. And then like, I told myself, oh God, I can't lose the next 5 rounds if I want to get into top 8. But yes, yellow decks definitely the worst matchup for me. And even right now, after the tournament, I'm still figuring out like kind of like a consistent way to kind of deal with them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know it's something that we've gone back and forth on, and again, a lot of times, right? I think with just being such a Nexus centric deck that you play 100 games and then you'll always remember the ones that they either got none of their Nexus because you either kept them offline or they didn't draw them, or they got like double Paradise and like horribly ran away with the game because they're never going to attack or do anything until they just get this massive hand advantage on you, and then you're always playing from that back foot, which can be a really hard spot for purple when you want to try to take like that early 1-for-1 or 2-for-1s where you can, and then get the value off like depths or purple smoke to kind of refill your hand and recover the board state from that spot. But that also kind of leads into the other question is if you would make any changes to the deck, right? You mentioned Feral Slash, which is going to be a great sideboard card. Again, I think many more people should choose that as an option if you're seeing a lot of these Nexus centric decks. But is there any other card that you were considering or would consider post the event that you'd want to include in your sideboard now?
Yeah, well, there are definitely changes. So in my main deck during the tournament, I put 2 Boltrictor, the card which made you thought it was an aggro deck, and then like after the tournament, I realized it might not be as useful as I thought because again during the pre-launch event, I realized that my deck didn't have enough curse, so that's why with the mid-range deck, I try to put in like a little bit more curse, which at that time bumped the count up to, if I've counted correctly, around 14 cards, which would be able to gain the curse keyword. And then after the tournament, I realized it's not that I didn't have enough cards with curse. It's literally just because I didn't have Maduke. Because obviously, if you have Maduke at level 3, then like they wouldn't be able to leave the field at all. So like you don't really need that many cards with curse as long as like you save at least 1 in hand, just like for the Maduke combo. So yes, I would be removing Boltrictor, but then I am considering like kind of what kind of cards to put in. Currently, I sub in 2 Nemesis just to try it out, because I did like notice the other purple list and they seem to be using Nemesis quite well, and so I figure like Nemesis would be quite useful as uh kind of mid game attacker, and especially since it can also like help to trigger some draws from Purple Smoke Valley. And then if like things go smooth, then like maybe I could even just like destroy my own cost 4, cost 5, and then just bring back Bell the Gore, and then that would destroy something else, etc. Which obviously with like the correct setup, just that one on attack effect would have gained a lot of things. So like imagine like I destroy like a Cavalier and like remove 2 cores from like an opposing spirit that would trigger the Valley to draw 1, and then maybe also what was it, the Rotting Swarm to draw another 1, and then summon Beldagon again, and then which like would destroy another 1. So that's removing 2 spirits and like drawing 2, and then like you basically didn't reduce any number of your spirits on your field. So like I think that might work out. And then the last change as of now that I'm thinking was obviously the Feral Slash, but then I also did think about maybe going for like 2 Feral Slash and 2 Netherworld Depths, because I realized maybe in some matchups it's much more important to get out Netherworld Depths earlier on, especially against aggro deck, I think. Because in my current list, I run 2 Netherworld Depths in my main deck, and like that's it. There's no more depths in the side deck. Because like a lot of times I think that if I draw it into the hand too early on, it pretty much it's very hard to like just place it out because you don't have enough cores. And most of the time you would want to have some spirits on the field first instead of just like, oh yes, I'm gonna save 6 cores and deploy Netherworld Depths with an empty field, because like that's just like you're just telling the opponent to run into you and just like end the game quick. So I never thought about adding more than 2 Netherworld Depths. But now that I think about it, like it might be good just to up the ratio, just so I can see it more early on. Uh, and yeah, from the side deck, I would be removing Curse Dragon because, well, originally I never even thought about putting Curse Dragon in the side actually, but my friend told me that maybe I can use it as a kind of a board wipe against aggro deck. I realized that's not the case because the aggro players are too smart to do that. They would just like put at least 2 cores on their spirits because they know Curse Dragon would be a thing.
Yep.
So I only put Curse Dragon into the main deck once for the whole tournament. And even during that one game, I never used it. So, yeah, sorry, Curse Dragon. I got your SCR, but you're not in my deck now.
It is an absolutely beautiful card as well. And I gotta go back to it. You know, a lot of people have either seen the list or seen the video I did with the Spirit. Like, I love Nemesis. It's just such a great mid-range value card. I think the Shadow like sub archetype that's in set 1 is actually super neat with like Abandoned Guillotine and all that stuff. And I'm really, really hoping, fingers crossed, all that good stuff, we see more in set 2 to kind of round it out. And of course, I could pick favorite spirits from each of the different colors and get into it, but the people want to know, what is your favorite spirit if you had to pick one? And, you know, you can give us, if you have a quick list, you know, you can do a top 3, or if you just have an all-time favorite one, that's fine as well. Whichever one, what kind of list you want to give?
Oh, wow. Maybe. Maybe I'll go with top 3, but again, I've been playing the Japanese one for 14 years. There are lots of cards that I love. And like, it's really hard to pick. As
Well,
I said, Nemesis.
You can keep it to
Sorry,
Saga
go
if you
ahead.
want to just keep it to Saga too. I probably should. I gotta remember that you play Japanese battle spirits. I gotta keep it straight to the Saga.
Yes, no, I get what you mean. Like, obviously, I'm not gonna pick anything that's not in. It's just like kind of like, you know, my memories kind of like it's a little bit foggy just because I would mix all the artworks up. But well, Nemesis is definitely one of them. I mean, to be fair, I'll probably put Nemesis and Maduke in like Nemesis in third place and then Maduke in second place. And the first place would actually be Zigram Nova. Just because Zigram Nova was actually my first X-Rare card back when I started the Japanese game.
Oh, that's super
So
cool.
I kind of have some special memories with it, especially since like the card itself also has very great importance to the game, like in terms of like being an icon and everything like that, because it was the card that was owned by like the most popular protagonist from the anime series. And like ever since then, Bandai was just like, yes, everyone loves Lova, so we're gonna reprint him over and over again and just make his effects even more powerful than before and just like make it completely broken. And no, we're not gonna ban him, we're just gonna ban the cards that might slow him down a little bit, like stuff like that. And like it was stupid, but yeah.
And now
I'm
you
glad they kind of nerfing down a little bit in Saga, but yeah.
and now you have the special golden artwork one, right? Which is just, that's my favorite artwork of them, and I was like super excited to see that they got to use it. But man, I think you said like you're gonna go get it graded, right, and put it on a shelf or something, probably keep that trophy.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Because I'm not someone who particularly like kind of want to use like special artworks that say, hey, look, I got this really pretty ashy art right here. Like in terms of like gameplay, I don't really care about that. So I might as well grade it and like if like emergency ever comes, I suppose I can sell it for some extra money, but probably won't. I would like to keep it as a trophy, obviously.
Yeah, and what a cool, like, just to bring it full circle, like a great memento thinking about your years in Japanese Battle Spirits, then moving over to Saga and Nova still playing such a big role. And now you have a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous trophy card to keep, which is absolutely wonderful. So wrapping things up here, I just want to give you a chance for any final shout outs, personal shout outs, if you have where people can find you, if you want to like throw out a Discord name, if they want to connect with you, any judges you want to shout out, anything at all, you have the floor. Who do you want to give a shout out to?
Quite a few persons, for quite a few people, but I suppose first of all, I do have to say thanks to Abdel and Mike, like my opponents in top 4 in the final games, because I do genuinely think that we had some excellent games there. Like it was like it couldn't even be more intense than that, because like all of them were like some very close games. So I really like that. And then personal shout out to my friend Chris, just because he wanted a shout out, so I'll give him that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but then just I'm very grateful to my locals in general. They were all being very supportive. Once they heard that like I'm trying to attend the Grand Open, and then the Pro Tour later on and so on, they helped me with a lot of things, with like the most minor things being like, oh, have you submitted your deck list? Yeah, remember to check for the deadline. And then some of them even went as much as kind of like proxying like a whole deck just for me to like kind of play test against, and like would just like actively ring me, just like, hey, you free right now, you want to do some play testing. So, and then obviously after I got my first place, some of them were even more excited than I am. So I am very I am very grateful of them, that's for sure. But yeah, I'm not gonna be cringe and go too long, so I'll just stop here.
No, it's totally fine, man. Gotta give people, the time to give a shout out, but also that's so awesome that you had such a supportive local community and people that were able to help you out with tests and whatnot. And that's like the biggest thing I can say too, right? Like even with my own content stuff or people in my local community or, those of us in the Discord, right? It does just take a lot of people to, especially with how different Battle Spirits, like as a core game is. Like I come from a heavy Magic background, played Kaijudo, played Duel Band, like I played a bunch of different stuff, right? And even coming into Battle Spirits, it was like I was learning Magic again for the first time, it felt like, because it just is so different. So I really got to stress again the importance of, just going out to your locals, having fun, because it's truly a great game once you like understand it, at least enough to like play it efficiently. And then of course, if you want to get better and better, you got to play more and stuff. But I can't stress enough how much I've just loved playing every single color in Battle Spirit Saga, because that's something I, normally just don't do in other card games. So I've been loving it. I've absolutely been in love with it. I'm great to hear that, someone with such a long history to the IP as yourself was able to come over to Saga and have a blast with it. So any closing thoughts or anything else before we wrap up this call and let you get back to sleep? I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. Like I said, it's completely fine. We're all night cats. We all sleep late at night. What is the sun? Never seen it before. But no, yeah, I think that's all for me. Thanks for having me, Cosmic. I would have never thought that I'll be invited to someone else's YouTube channel when I never even thought about really just like maintaining a channel by myself. So yeah, really thanks for inviting me over here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I'm really hoping that, as I kind of balance this out with Eggman, because he's been doing a lot of great stuff for Bandai Games overall. I guess I got to give a quick shout out to Eggman. If you're watching my channel, you should know who Eggman is. Like, I'm not even going to sugarcoat that. Like, if you're not following Eggman already in his website, that's been really great at tracking all of the Battle Spirits Saga metas, like going forward, go check that out. I'll have another link for that in the comments and all that stuff. But really, it's just so great to get everyone together and celebrate the first year of Battle Spirits Saga. Because again, it's my favorite game in the last 10 years. And I think it's just overall a really special thing that more people should check out. So hopefully we can kind of keep this like, Champions Corner theme going forward. This is like, again, the first technically episode. I don't have a name for it yet. I guess let me know in the comments if anybody has a good name. Otherwise, we'll just use Champions Corner or stuff. But I will wrap things up there. So thank you so much, everyone, for, sticking through it, and, everyone that played in Germany that was able to come out, have fun. Obviously, huge shout out to Ayumu for being able to win it, take home, obviously, big money is very nice, but a very sentimental Nova card as well is obviously super, super exciting. And to all future summoners who will be going out to events and playing against one another, as a reminder, please be good to one another. Take care of yourselves out there. Stay hydrated, and we'll see you in the next Battle Spirits Saga video. See ya.
Bye bye.